All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. Yes, the downside of never taking a day off, doesn't matter if there's earthquakes or tornadoes or tsunamis. If I can, I do my webinars, but the problem is sometimes, I don't know, technology can't hang. So yesterday I was doing the swing trading group and, internet went away. That was that. And I went most of yesterday and I think even the day before without internet. So just one of those things. So anyways, the first half of that meeting is up on the site. But welcome everybody. Welcome to Forex.Today, the YouTube community of more than 19,000 foreign exchange traders. We got our eyes on the prize. So, hey, I'd just like to say thank you for being with me for the last 365 days. I thought both 2020 and 2021 could have been a lot worse. There's, I think, a lot to be grateful for. And I would say probably 90% of 2021 went as planned as far as seasonality is concerned. And then, of course, Omicron kind of messed things up a little bit there in the middle of November to the middle of December. But it's ending as it should again. So I don't know. Darko says use mobile internet for trading. I do, but what I can't do is run a live stream. But whatever. I can't do it effectively from my phone. Although I got this cool new phone. Huh? Whoa, what? Cool new phone. But still not good enough. Okay. Oh, Victor says both groups posted charts on the on the site. Right on. I appreciate that. That's cool. Awesome. I mean, that's awesome just right then and there. So that's, I mean, as far as the upgrade and all the pain I went through to get that done, that makes me happy. White Rock says, I had no idea what was going on in the group yesterday. Oh, really? That's interesting. I'd like to know more about that. But maybe next week, huh? So anyways, the meeting went on. Oh, I see. Oh, so you couldn't get back to the group. So you were stuck in the group meeting. I see, but you couldn't get back to the main one. Yeah, I was just, the interesting thing is it just logged me out and all of a sudden it started archiving the recording because I record it locally, but I had no internet and not for hours, right? Okay. Oh, and you did do the presentations. That is, dude, I'm so happy. You guys make me so happy. Anyways, that's awesome. I think that, yeah, that is cool. I'm so happy. Like, I'm just full of joy because that's cool. So anyways, let's do some technical and fundamental analysis today, huh? And then we'll end the year on a good note. But again, what I was saying is I feel like, even though there's been some serious challenges over the last 12 months, that there's more to be grateful for. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. Let me remind you that trading is risky, not appropriate for everyone. Your past performance, good or bad, it's not necessarily indicative of future results. But please always stay small, stay humble, focus on the long term. Never risk money you cannot afford to lose. Cool. So anyways, this is me. Everything is off center today. I don't know why. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm crooked. So anyways, Happy New Year. I won't see you till next week, which is great. But yeah, and by the way, I looked it up. Sometimes, if not most of the time, the first trading day of the year is a holiday in the United States. This year it is not. So Monday is a live day. So I'll see you guys on Sunday night if you're in my day trading group, and we will get ready to do what we do. So while you're here today, though, I'll go through my charts and I'll answer your questions. I don't think we need to be here for 2 hours, and we'll just kind of go for there. I'll be here today as much as you need me. Okay? What else? I invite you to visit tradersway.com. Open up a demo account. You can have charts just like mine, trading platform just like mine. This live account with Traders Way is a variable spread. I'm a variable spread guy. I always have been. That's what I do. That's what I like. You can try that. That means 99% of the time you're going to get the best price possible. The spread will widen when need be, but that's not Traders Way. That's the market. So you should probably not be trading when spreads are wide anyways. That means, by the way, just so you know, the spreads widen because there's no market. The spreads widen because the matching process that happens means that the broker has to reach farther out to find a buyer or a seller to be on the other side of your trade. So with a variable spread account, when the spread widens, which is not usual, it happens around news. It'll happen at rollover when there's low liquidity. So that might actually be an interesting warning sign. When the spreads are wider than you like, you should probably not be trading because it's telling you you might be the only idiot trying to place a trade. So anyway, I like variable spreads. So visit tradersway.com, open up an account. Come on, man. Get the relationship going. They'd like to earn your loyalty and respect. Hey, Adam, Happy New Year to you as well. All right, let's start with commodities. Okay. We have oil breaching this top, coming back to the 4-hour. And it hasn't gone up, but it hasn't gone down. And I think a lot of the markets have kind of done that this week. Okay? This last week was a pretty decent week, huh? But then we get into this week, and it's been sideways most of the day. I mean, by sideways, I mean, you can say that's a bottom and that's a top. And that kind of looks like more sideways than anything, right? Cool. So so here we are sitting around 75, 76, 77. That's kind of, really the right price. Okay, it's kind of the right price. We hit 70 on daily 200 EMA, and that's what kind of created the bounce. And now we're just sort of farting around waiting for next week, really. Okay, but anyway, stable and slightly up. And gold trying to make a big move, really? Actually, no. Statistically speaking, we're still, this is the daily chart, by the way. Statistically speaking, we're still on the average price. Going back the entire year, yeah, it's about average. It's about right. Okay, on a smaller time frame like an hour instead of a daily, you can see we're at the top of a small range. Okay. So again, I'll remind you that even though the stock market now is up 30% for the year, gold has done nothing. Whoa, whoa, oh, 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 oh. Yep, nothing. How about our Bitcoin? We had it, do you remember I said 44, 44, 40, 44, 44? And the low seems to be low, 45, 47, I think. 45,471. So probably what? When you look at how much Bitcoin can move in an hour or in a day, pretty close to a decent projected bottom. Okay? Now, this old plan here is based on the idea if you believe it's, bullish moving into the new time frame, that you would look at this, you're going to treat this as a higher high, higher low. And you're like, Wayne, it didn't do that. You're wrong. Well, look, actually what I'm doing here is technical analysis, so I'm not wrong. It's just the analysis, okay? And if you treat this as a higher high, what does this mean if you're going to buy a dip? You need a higher low. Well, what does that mean for a bear? Sell. Because even a bull needs it to come down. So bulls and bears agree that in this price up here at the higher high, it should come down. What you don't know is there's two bullish buys. There's this, and then there's the range. So there's only plan A and plan B. Okay? White Rocks is 8 trillion. It was actually 5T from the Fed, 5T from the White House. Okay. My point, White Rock, was last year's rally in gold was central banking purchases. So if that unwinds, then we'll go back to a normal world. Okay. Cody, I don't know. I think you should answer that. Do I use EAs for entering and exit trades? No. No. Anyway, so we'll leave Bitcoin there. We're stabilizing around this $50, right? We're waiting for some new up, but this is the bullish point of view still, and we're just in between this 50% and 618 Fibonacci retracement, going from the low of the year to the high. I think that's the low of the year. Yeah, essentially, right? So, we're sort of like, this is sort of a waiting game, if you will. Okay. Now I do want to see some dollar strength coming up, and that would bring Bitcoin down. So what do you think? Where's the actual bottom? 40? What do you think the projected low would be for January? So let's do this now. Let's go out here. And you'll see that the M1 is 39,830. So we'll call that 40. Okay. So what do you think of this? We ride this down. Okay. And we go from 51 to 40. But we do it quickly, and then maybe find some stabilization down in here. Okay. Head and shoulders. Let's take a look at that. I don't know. I don't get, Jody says head and shoulders. I don't get caught up too much in patterns, like that type of pattern recognition. I'm much more interested in both fundamentals and sort of more price action based technicals versus a pattern like this type of thing, I think is what Jody's talking about. So I guess down here and then, It's to me, and I'm not saying this is you, but to me, it's too simple-minded. This is a much more complicated market than that, and there's nothing perfect in these moves. So, like this, I would argue, is as close you could get, okay, to a head and shoulders pattern. So you'd measure this, and then you do this, and you get in there. But would I do the whole thing over again and do sort of a head and shoulders of a head and shoulders of it? No. 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 So I would break this down into pieces about how you feel about crypto. And you either believe it's going to zero or you believe it's going to 100K, basically, right? And you're like, Wayne, well, it could do so much more than just that. Well, I'm breaking us into camps. Okay? So if you believe there is a use case for Bitcoin over the next year, well, somewhere in here, there's a value proposition of Bitcoin is cheap. This is monthly. Okay? Yeah, that's right, Greg. Yeah, for risk management, I love an EA. It helps me drop my stops and limits and stuff. But as far as making a decision, no, like what? Once again, look, if I can create an EA that consistently makes money, I don't have to be an exotic dancer anymore. And I'd love that. That'd be great. I mean, look, I like this job being a currency trader. I like this job of doing analysis. Even though the internet was down last night for me because of the storms. And by the way, it's crazy weird. Usually this time of year, it's 0 degrees Celsius. Okay, it's like 22 degrees Celsius right now. I was sitting outside, 10 o'clock at night. It had been raining all day and all night, so it's wet. I'm sitting outside, 10 o'clock at night, December 30th, and I'm out there smoking a cigar and doing fundamental research. I don't even have a sweater on. I don't have a jacket on. It's literally 70 degrees Celsius. Weird, right? So the reason I've been losing internet is even though it's Christmas, we've been having tropical storms like it's summer. I mean, crazy lightning, crazy thunder, just nutso, and the incredible amounts of rain, all in very short amounts of time, like just torrential, tropical rain. And usually it's snowing, like nutso, right? Nutso. So anyways, but going back to let me put it this way. I was a bit grumpy because, keep losing internet and all that kind of stuff. But to sit down at night and do fundamental research makes me happy. And I think that's sort of a litmus test, if you will. Are you quote unquote a real trader? I don't know. I know I laugh because I don't even know what that is. But there's somebody at FX Street that says things like trade like a banker, or trade like a real trader or something. I don't know. It's just funny. But anyways, I think that's a great sign that if you're sitting at night doing fundamental research and it makes you happy, you're at least on the right track. Okay? There's no three main, that's everything. Okay? There isn't three. Okay? There isn't three. Okay? But anyways. So anyways, for Bitcoin, if you're on a camp, you should expect there's a decent probability of more down before there's up. Okay? Part of that has to do with dollar seasonality more than Bitcoin. I don't know if Bitcoin has seasonality. It hasn't been around long enough. Okay? Well, I'm not saying anything about FX Street. There's just somebody there, and I've never attended, so I'm not saying anything. I'm not picking on somebody, any individual personally, but somebody does something like, learn how to trade like the real bankers do or something, and it's just like it's funny. It's funny. What do you mean like bankers? But anyways, like there's some they're gods, I guess is what it makes me feel like. Okay. Cody says mainly central banks. Well, that's what fundamental analysis is. Okay. So Cody, how many times is the Fed going to raise interest rates next year? Okay. How many times are the Fed going to raise interest rates next year, Cody? Okay. You're like, laugh out loud. I don't know. 3. That's what fundamental analysis is. Now, you say you don't know, so you need to do some fundamental analysis. Now, the confusion here is people think it's news. Like, what was weekly jobless claims yesterday? Oh, less than 200,000. Well, that's news. What's non-farm payrolls going to be in a week? Oh, well, that's news. That's not fundamentals. Okay? So what is fundamental analysis? Well, what is the central bank going to do based on economic data? And more importantly, the trend in economic data and where we are in the business cycle. Okay? So you got to be careful of a guru that talks about news as fundamentals. Okay, what you want to do is look at a business cycle. Maybe I should clear this out. Hang on. What you want to do is look at a business cycle. Okay? And then find out where we are in the business cycle. Okay? We're going to call this Y star, which is potential GDP. Which means over the last 50 years, the United States has grown by 2.2% per year over long periods of time. So this slope would show you that it grows slowly over long periods of time, slowly and consistently on average. But we know there isn't average all the time. In fact, you're almost never average. So you're either below potential GDP, okay? And we call this area, recession. Okay? And then when you're above, we call this area here a boom. Okay? And we go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Boom, bust, boom, bust, boom, bust. Okay? That's how it normally goes. Now, along with this, there's things like inflation, job growth, etc., etc. Okay? Now, if you have inflation, it's probably because of job growth. And because everybody has a job, then you have wage growth. Wage growth creates inflation. And then the Fed adjusts interest rates, lowering interest rates on the way down, raising interest rates on the way up. Okay? Now this area from the bottom to here, we call this a productivity gap. Okay? And this is what QE was doing to fill that. Now we're getting ready to raise interest rates, so we are somewhere around this potential GDP. Now, just because we have inflation doesn't mean we're outproducing GDP, okay? Because that has to do with each dollar being worth less than it used to be. But if you adjust and all that kind of stuff, our real interest rates are very, very negative right now. We're still pumping hundreds of billions of dollars of quantitative easing in the market, so it makes sense that we have high inflation. But we're somewhere in here and probably getting close to be above potential GDP, so the Fed will need to raise interest rates. Okay? So the analysis of trying to figure out where we are we a little bit below potential GDP? Are we at potential GDP? Are we above GDP? And based on your research, so now you'll look at the trend of news, the trend of non-farm payrolls, for example. Does it show we're at full employment? Are we near full employment? Okay. That'll tell you wage growth. Wage growth will tell you inflation. Inflation will tell you the necessary level of interest rates. Okay? So you do your analysis to figure all this out. Why? So that you can then tell me, Cody, you do have an opinion on how many times the Fed's going to raise interest rates next year because you've done some fundamental research. What I don't like is where some guru on YouTube is preaching, ISM, the ISM release is fundamental. No, it's not. It's just a data point inside of a data set. And they'll say, oh, look at that number. It's good. Why is it good? And they couldn't explain something as basic as this. Okay? Okay, pound has just hit the target. So we're done for the week. Okay. Okay, Aussie been held up here. Was up, and then came down, roll reversal, up, came down, roll reversal, and is just maybe running out of volume. Congratulations, Abdul. That's nice. It's basically a day trade. Okay, but, small trade is better than no trade in some cases, right? Depending on what you're trying to do. Going back to this, here's our target. How did I do? What do you think? Okay. Okay, so you tried, so Abdul, so you tried to swing trade. Okay, it's not bad. But 80 pips isn't a good swing trade, but it's a good day trade. And sometimes like this late in the week, this late in the year, I wouldn't really expect any more than that, right? So like the trades this week were there. Okay, this is an out of position trade. Okay. Now that one's difficult to catch because you don't know in the moment. And bulls don't like to buy out of position, okay? The next trade here is the entry, okay? And then it comes across here, and this one hasn't fulfilled mostly because euro was weaker than the other ones. At the particular time that you would have tried to make this trade, it wasn't the best trade. But nonetheless, this is the more predictable trade, if you will, the more reliable one. And so you'll see in that case, you know, you're in sort of there and you get here. And it, like you said, it's about 80 pips, but that's a day trade. So you'll see here on Wednesday, it told you the best you could possibly hope for is this price here, 130.50. Okay? So we call that a pissy little day trade. Not even 99 pips. And so far, that's been the top of the week. Okay? This is a difficult one to catch. You'd have to be aggressive. This one's the easier one to catch because it's already broken out, so there is no bearish move. But then it only produced one day, so you bought it on Wednesday, and by the time Thursday happened, you're already done. You see? Okay? Yeah, so Abdul, all I'm saying is you're a swing trader. Okay? But in this case, 80 pips is just a pissy little day trade. But that's all you were given for the week. That's all there was. Remember, the market dictates how profitable we are, not anything else. Okay? So it's same sort of thing here. You see, I got this marked out. And I've even drawn this. Can you see it? I've even drawn it. Okay, cool. So what does this what does this show us? Let me try to zoom in a little bit. Okay. What it shows us is on this day, okay, again Wednesday, there's a mediocre buy. You probably caught it in here. And the short-term target was there. Okay, great. But that's a day trade. I prefer to be in longer than a day. The next trade here is now what we call a roll reversal. And this one's beautiful because it's inside of our daily buy zone. Okay? This one's a little outside. It would have really challenged your stop, but hopefully you stayed in. This is the more obvious one because you got the high roll reversal type trade. That's great. But the thing is, this now entry predicts that we'd be higher. But we've just run out of steam, and here it is Friday, and we still haven't even gotten above Thursday's R1. And by the way, R1 is nothing. So again, if your last guru preached R1 a lot with their pivot points and S1 a lot with their pivot points, rest assured they don't know anything about pivot points. Okay? So now Greg says the $64 million question is, will yen going to be strong after the new year? Greg, I will tell you, for only $24 million, I will give you a huge discount. Okay? Why? Because I care about you, Greg. Okay? So, how many people here would like to know the answer to that? What will the yen do in the beginning of the year? Now remember, it's not every single day, but generally, okay? $24 million Shiba? That's probably worth it. Okay? For Q1. Cool. Neat, right? So anyways, going there. Euro, look at that. We went from the bottom of the range to the top of the range. I did this 2 weeks ago, and all we did is hit the top, go back to the middle. A Fibbo pivot. Yeah. Cool. Okay, the thing with Fibonacci, so we're looking at Kiwi dollar here. This is the 3rd week of November. Here we are, the 4th week of December, and we've done nothing since, right? So more than a month, you would not use Fibonacci in this. Okay. Okay. It's just hanging on. You'll see 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago it was a good week. And then we've just sort of run into the last week of the year. Okay. So I look at this and I'm wondering how far down. Well, Abdul, what I've always said over all these years is picking bottoms is a strategy that stinks. Okay? So here we are. We went from central to R1, which is a really tight range. So it'd be interesting to see what happens next if there's US dollar strength, to see what happens. Woke up this morning as a miracle occurred. All right, neato, right? It was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. All right, we're just kind of moving along. Dollar pairs, yen pairs. Let's take a look at Meta's peso trade. What do you mean, Greg? Hang on, let's do this. So Greg, so this is me comparing the Japanese yen to other currencies. Yeah. So I say this will remain weak for the next 12 weeks. So are you saying yen weakness? Just want to... Yes, I do. R2 and S2, yes, I do. And all the M pivots. But you have to understand, like, for example, let me make this clear, Abdul, to everybody. The market usually trends. So when the market is not trending, you'll be held at the first level of resistance or the first level of support because it's not going anywhere. But most of the time, it's going somewhere. So therefore, if it's trending, these are not, these levels are not that important. Okay? Yes, and I agree with that, Greg. But you have to understand, mine isn't based on a chart. It's based on global money flow. Okay? Now, I think you're looking at a chart and saying, this is trending down, and there's no technical reason for it to stop. Oh, it's going to stop, and I'll tell you exactly when it's going to go from weak to strong, but you won't find it on your chart. I already know the answer to that, Greg, or at least I have a very solid understanding. Now, there can be a change in market conditions, but let's just say normally, okay, whatever that means, I can tell you exactly when this will go from weak to strong. And I can come up with some bullshit answer of why, but it doesn't matter because I actually can't prove it. I understand reasons, but let's just say I do know when it's going to happen. And your chart will not tell you until after it's happened, and then you will be able to say, oh, look, it's now strong. But I might be in a week or two or three before you, or I might avoid some losses before before the change in direction, right? So anyways, there's a difference. So the point is, it's based on seasonality, not a chart. But I don't know. So a chart, for example, would say we rolled over here, so this is the target, right? So we got a ways to go before we get, right, before the yen gets strong. Cool. But I can tell you the date. I can tell you right now. But I'm not. Okay? Anyways. So, pig down, Kiwi down, Euro up, Aussie down. So, I see yen is down. I see dollar is down. I might actually wait for the dollar to show some strength, and I might buy a dollar today. Why? I don't know. I'm in a pissy mood. Okay? Interesting. All right, so let's go back. Let us go back. Oh, yeah, I wanted to look at Maida's trade. Okay. I believe she shorted at 2070 and is riding that beautifully. I don't know what all that is. Anyways. Okay. Well, if we were to read the chart here, the chart says if Maida sold here, she should go for 20.330. However, the conservative target that you can walk away with and be proud is 20, 30, 98. And that's exactly where we are now. So if she took profit right here, it's conservative, and there's nothing wrong with being conservative. And you could say, job well done. But what the chart says is what it's probably worth is a little bit more. Okay? So that's what the chart says. Exit right here. Okay? This is what it says. Which just happens to be one standard deviation from the mean, and the mean, the slope, is less than 0. Okay? Whoa, whoa, oh, 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 oh. Great. Okay? Yeah. Abdul, I just spoke about the yen for like a half an hour, man. All right, so I guess that's just it. I think it's time to call it a day, call it a week, call it a month, call it a year. So thank you for being part of Forex.Today 2021. I thought was a pretty okay year. Pretty okay year. I got out of the house a little bit. I went to I went as far south as you can go until you get your feet wet. So I put my feet in the Gulf of Mexico earlier in this year, and I got to talk to a lot of people about COVID and about hiring employees, and I got to see about whether people were getting out and about, crawling out of their cellars and going out to the beach and going out to restaurants and going out to hotels. And like I said, I talked to managers, I talked to bartenders, I talked to waiters, I talked to cooks, I talked to valet boys and girls or whatever, and got to see how hotels and restaurants and everybody handled all of this. And this was back, I think it was in the summer. I also flew to Chicago and did the same thing there. Went to tourist destinations, stayed at hotels, went to restaurants, and I talked to every single person I could. By the way, I've been tipping 30% this year to everyone that actually showed up. I actually thanked a bartender back in June. I said, thank you for doing your service. Thank you for your service. Like it was a fireman or just got out of active combat. I thanked him for showing up and doing his job. And so anyways, going out to Chicago, I got to see that. So I flew out there. I flew out to New York, same thing. I talked to absolutely everybody. New York's interesting because they have more unions and stuff. So, you know, even the order in which you're invited back to work has to do with your seniority in the union. So it was really interesting learning about that. I went out to the forests of northern Wisconsin out on the Canadian border. So you got to understand, I went as far south as you can go in America. Well, not quite, because there's all of Florida. I was in Florida, but the northern part of Florida, but I was on the Gulf of Mexico. All right. So anyways, I went from that, right, Gulf of Mexico, all the way up to the Canadian border in the forests. And by the way, I took you with me to all these different places. And once again, talked to hotel owners, talked to restaurant owners, talked to tourist destinations. And, you know, we rented this giant boat for 30 people and went out on this great lake. And again, I went up onto the top deck because there's multiple decks and stuff. So anyways, I went up to the top deck and I just sat out with the captain for an hour, just asked them, hey, how's it going? How many employees? How are things going? Have you been investing in your business? Has it been hard getting capital? Has it been hard getting employees? What do you think about how's 2021 going to be? How is it compared to last year? What do you think where we will be in 5 years? Like, just literally asking all these questions to everyone I've met in 2021. And thanks to credit cards, I'm a platinum member again on Delta. And I only flew like 2 or 3 times last year. And I'm platinum status again. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Long story short, I got out a little bit. And I got to be grateful for that. And I had an opportunity to be an economist. Because I am an economist. And I got to talk to a lot of people and learn a lot of things. And it helps me make my predictions for the future. And so I'm really grateful to have been able to do that. And it's been a pretty good year. I don't have too many complaints about 2021. I'm also grateful for you being in my life. There's opportunities here at Forex.Today or at FX Bootcamp where we can get together as a community. And now when there's collaboration, I can talk to, in one meeting, I can talk to 10, 12, 30 different countries and say, what's going on here? What's going on there? How's your country feeling right now? How's your country feeling right now? Are people doing this? Are people doing that? And I'm very grateful to have you in my life because we can collaborate, and together I think we're smarter because I can ask you, is South Africa like a zombie apocalypse? Or is everyone dying of Omicron? And the answer is no, it doesn't seem to be. And so I'm like, well, that's really cool. It helps me digest the news that I'm receiving here, or news I'm receiving from the UK or from Europe. Okay. I've also been able to talk to several people that have had COVID and can learn from their experience as well. So what a great opportunity. Because I remember when I first started FX Bootcamp 20 years ago, it was because I found as a trader, once I quit my job as a venture capitalist and I started working at home, I realized the isolation was a real risk. It was a real killer, if you will. It was a business model killer, that isolation. And, that I said, well, I need to surround myself with other like-minded people because that's always been my secret to success. Okay. And I had success before Forex. I had been in magazines and newspapers and stuff all around the world, all as an entrepreneur. So now coming to Forex was a new thing for me, and I never saw that isolation as a threat until it hit me. Well, now you can actually look at this community that we've built together, and it's sort of the opposite. We've addressed that threat and we've turned it into a strength, where when we get hit by an exogenous shock, we can talk to people and get inside information, not relying on media to give us their biased opinion. So we're able to meet and collaborate as a community, and I think it's just amazing. I think it's wonderful. I think we make the world a better place. I know you make my world a better place, and I hope I contribute, at least in a small way, to everything that you do and to all the success that you are finding. So without further ado, thank you for a great 2021. I'm looking forward to an amazing 2022. I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll be tricky. I think a lot of people have things priced wrong. But as George Soros would say, it doesn't matter. It's the expectations that matter. And so we have to, as again, George Soros, his whole thing is there's reality, and then there's expectations of the market, and that gap is opportunity, but also threat. So at least we were able to get through it next year, but I don't think next year is going to be boring. So peace on earth. May the pips be with you. May our profits be above average. And I'll see you next week, next month, next year. Cheers.